Let's go ahead and begin. And then just again, a quick introduction. Maya went ahead and introduced themselves. Sorry, folks, we had someone here at the door. Hi. Oh, yes, of course. Come on in. Come on in. We're walking.
No worries. Welcome in.
Thank you.
Like I was saying before, my name's Maya, Golda Kalmain. Fun fact about me is that I have beat Tetris. I didn't know you could until I did. It's just kind of a fun fact.
Do you want to wear a mask? Oh, no, you're fine.
It's up to you. Yeah. But yeah, go ahead, Jenny.
And then again, good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Flores. I'm the online teaching and learning librarian. I know Maya went ahead and introduced you to their subjects and everything that they kind of do. But as the online teaching and learning librarian, I do a lot of programs and try to work heavily with the graduate school and other online programs as well. My subject specialties are education, kinesiology, Chicano studies, and Native American and Indigenous studies as well. And then my fun fact is that I used to have a goldfish named Golden. I honestly hate having to do fun facts, and I think Maya and I both kind of struggled with this, and so we get it completely. It's awful. It's the worst, but there they are. Okay.
You still have your golden?
I don't. Golden, R.I.P. He died like when I was maybe 10, so that's what, so that's what it is. Okay, so what we are going to be talking about and what we're going to be doing, like I mentioned, this is the second part of our research question breakdown. And so last week, if you joined us, thank you for that. But if you didn't join us, we went a little bit more into detail about the research question breakdown. And so today we're going to cover kind of some similar items. We're going to break it down just kind of broadly and show you guys what it means to break down your research question into bite-sized pieces, just kind of making it like food themed again, right? But we're also going to focus a lot more on database searching. And so finding and locating our databases that are specific to your different subjects, to your different disciplines. And then also, if you are more interdisciplinary, if you're looking at information that maybe pertains to the health sciences, and maybe you are looking at maybe additionally beyond mental health, the physical health, things like that, or sciences in general, humanities. We're going to kind of touch on all of that today. So that's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to do a research question breakdown really briefly, and then we're going to locate some of our databases, okay? And if at any point in time, either to our participants here in person or to anyone online, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to type them in the chat and we'll get to them. We do have two of us here, so we'll be monitoring the chat when both of us are talking. And then for you guys that are here, if you have any questions, just let us know, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and move on. And so I have a question for you guys. I do have a question for you guys, but I'm going to mute this so you can hear me. Okay. And then my question is, what is the aspect that's the most challenging to you when you're conducting your research? What gives you the biggest headache? Okay, so if you want to go ahead and just kind of type that in. And then for those of us that are here in person, if you want to either tell us or type it in as well, you're more than welcome to, okay? But we'll go ahead and give you a moment to think about that.
You can join us online at journalist.com and type in that code, but it's up to you. If you'd like to just participate in person by speaking out, you're welcome to do so.
So your question was, what part of aspect of researching do you find the most challenging? Yeah. So to me, it seems that finding a novel aid, you know. So whatever I have been through is like advisor or professor just looking for, it has to be a specific aim that has never been done before. So that was my challenge, and I'm still dealing with it.
For sure. So one of our participants here in person said that her challenge was finding, oh, that's a good one, was finding kind of like a gap, right? And then making sure that it's original research and really making sure that what she is focusing on is brand new to the field. right? Would you say that's kind of like the biggest challenge? Yeah, for sure. I agree with you. I think that's a major challenge, and that's probably a really big headache. But I think once you do find those gaps in the literature, in the information, it's like a whole new day, right? It's like the light bulb turns on. And so that's pretty awesome. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing. And then what about you? Were you going to type it online, or did you want to? Okay, perfect. Let's see here. And then someone also wrote in the chat that their biggest the biggest headache in their research process is contributing to scholarship. Yeah, I think that's a big thing, especially for graduate students, right? That you want to make sure that what you are producing is going to be put out there into the larger narrative of scholarship, right? So when other graduate students or faculty, other PhDs are conducting their own research, are they going to be able to find your information which you're producing? And so I know Ray and I have done a couple programs on getting your work out there. So hopefully we can kind of continue those in the spring as well. So if that is your question, then we can definitely kind of help you out with that as well. Okay, so based on the responses that we have are finding the gaps in literature, the length of time to conduct research, the literature review, writing, and especially distilling concepts from literature, finding gaps in literature, for sure. So I think my question for you guys, especially those of you that are talking about the literature review and then finding those gaps, why is this so challenging? Why do you think this is the most difficult part? Is it the most time intensive? Is it the part that maybe takes the most brain power? Why do you think this is the most difficult part? And you guys are welcome to turn on your mics, or if you want to just go ahead and type it in the chat, or just let me know. Why do you think it's the most challenging part? Why do you think it's the biggest headache?
Yeah, time is also a factor.
Time?
Time and finding the actual gap that.
Yeah, for sure.
That can be difficult if you feel like you're on a time crunch and you want to find that gap, right? And then you feel like, oh no, like if I spend too much time trying to find that gap, then I'm not doing enough time or spending enough time on the research itself, right?
In the lab work.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you folks. I think the literature review is probably the hardest, or not the hardest, but the most time intensive part. And then that's what makes it the hardest part, right? Distilling all this information, going through it, and really making sure that it's quality information that's going to either help promote your argument or help promote your own research, right? So yeah, for sure. I totally agree with that. Very nice. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and move on to our next slide. And so this is the worksheet. If you were here with us last week, then you saw this as well. So hopefully you were able to kind of save this and have access to it. But if you didn't, and if you are brand new here, I highly suggest that you go ahead and click on this link that I have right here. And then we're going to work a little bit off of this one right here today. So like I mentioned, last week, we focused more heavily on the research question breakdown, and we also provided this resource to everyone that was here. We did a different type of activity with it, but for us today, I think this is also going to be really helpful. And we're just going to do like a broad sweeping overview of breaking down your research question. Okay, for me, because this is my computer, this is my document, I have it saved, so it's going to pop open for me without a problem. But for you guys, you probably want to try downloading it. So you might see like a yellow bar at the very top that says you can't edit it or anything like that. Look for the download button, and then once you see that download button, go ahead and do so. I highly encourage you to save this document. I've given this to countless undergraduate students, to graduate students as well, and everyone finds this super helpful. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I see that we have a question here in the chat. Awesome, thank you, Ray. It is also posted in the chat as well, so it's there for you. And then I can go ahead and see if I can get this one here. Let's see. I can do copy link, and then let me also throw that one in the chat just in case you need that one. Okay, so there you go. If you need access to this later on after the session, please let me know, and I'm more than happily send this to you. So this is the research question breakdown, and this was designed, and full disclosure, this was designed for undergrads. More often than not, we think of graduate students as You guys are already at this level. You know how to find information. So you shouldn't really have a problem being able to do this, right? So I think that in having my conferences with my graduate students, more often than not, students, no matter what level, they sometimes find themselves kind of like at a point where they don't know where to begin their research, right? They have this really large, daunting question. And because it's so large or so daunting, they don't necessarily know where to find their sources or even how to chunk up their research question. And so this is where it came out of. I think this is a great kind of starting off point if you are either brand new to graduate school or if you're kind of just working on your really big thesis or dissertation at this point. It helps you figure out and manage what else you need to know, what else you need to be considering, and how we can find alternative sources that are going to help you with your literature review and with your research. Okay, so this is it just briefly. The way that you would do this and the way that you would navigate this is you can go ahead and click on this right here, which I think it should work. I'm gonna go ahead and close that. Anyway, you can go ahead and click on this box right here and it should enable you to edit and insert your research question. And then we're gonna take our main concepts, we're gonna kind of chunk them up based on the questions that you have and the question that you presented to us. And then we're just gonna find keywords and related synonyms. So again, if you were here with us last week, this is very similar to the activity that we did, except this time we're gonna be working kind of more off of this document in particular. So with that said, is there anyone that would like to volunteer either their topic, their ideas that they want to kind of work through, or something that they're kind of going through in a class right now where they need to find their sources or need to find additional information? You're more than welcome to type it in the chat, me, and then I can go ahead and call on you, or if you want to volunteer here, doesn't really matter, but let me know. Anyone want to volunteer? Well, not everyone speak up at once now. It's okay. That's okay. So we can go ahead and do like a sample. We can do a sample one, right?
Yeah.
I think that works. Just in case you want to see how it works without kind of committing your topic and having the world know it, that's okay. That works with this too. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just come up with a question. So let's talk about, let's do what rate does, okay, I got this. At what rate does at what rate do Latinx high school students graduate and move on to four-year universities, sure. Right? Okay, so that is my question. Just kind of broad and maybe not very detailed, right? Just kind of simply straightforward. At what rate do Latinx high school students graduate and move on to four-year universities, okay? So with that, I can go ahead and kind of identify my key components of my research question. So knowing that this is mine, I might be a little bit too close to it. That's why I think having this activity works great. So you can break it up and chunk it a little bit better. So what key concepts do you guys think are present in my research question and or topic? What kind of sticks out to us as the main ideas here? Perfect, yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and do Latinx, and then I'm going to go ahead and do high school students. Okay, anything else?
Graduation or graduate.
Graduate. Okay. And four-year universities, yeah. Okay, so I have my key concepts, which are Latinx, high school students, graduate, and four-year universities. Those are my key concepts, okay? I think this is a great way to see, again, this really large question, this really large topic, and then helps you break it down even further. Okay, so the next part that I want to move on to is after I have my key concepts, I want to find related keywords and related synonyms. And this is really going to help me when I start conducting my database searching. Okay, more often than not, when we conduct our searches, we find that maybe we're hitting a wall, right? We find that we aren't getting enough sources based on this one term that we're using, or we're not finding enough research based on the way that we're posing our question. So having different concepts and related synonyms really helps us understand and see where the literature is coming from, what it looks like, and maybe how these words are changing. So if I have my question and I see that the literature isn't using the word Latinx, maybe I'm going to try switching it up, and I can think of synonyms that might work a little bit better. So the first one that comes to mind here is just Hispanic, right?
Or Latino.
Latino, right? I can also add Latino. So if that is what the literature is telling me, then maybe I need to rephrase my question and help find additional sources based on the different types of words and terminology that I'm using. Okay. So for high school students, I can think of teenagers, right? I can do teens. Additionally, I can think of secondary.
Like secondary school.
And then I have a question in the chat. Maya, I don't know if you're able to see that question.
Oh, yeah, they're saying preparatory schools, magnet schools.
For sure.
Other words.
Preparatory, and then we have magnet, right? It's fine. If we misspell something, we misspell something. We're just going to leave it there. And then magnet, right? Okay. Magnet schools. Okay. And then for graduate, if you can't find a word, or maybe you're kind of stumped and you can't necessarily think of something, I showed this to a graduate class that I did recently, and they were a rhetoric and writing class, and it surprised me that no one knew that if they right-clicked on it, it gives you this option for a synonym. And I can do synonyms for graduate, and it's going to pop up and it's going to give me additional terminology here. So I can see degree holder, person with degree, Bachelor of Arts, qualified, pass exams. And so if I get stuck, I can rely on the subjects that are here and the things that I can use to kind of help figure that out. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do maybe just pass, right? And then another word for graduate is
completing.
Completed. Completion. Okay, yeah. And then four-year universities. Is there anything that we can think of for 4 universities?
You could use college or university, because sometimes 4-year universities are called colleges.
College. And then, I'm sorry?
Tertiary.
Tertiary,
Yeah.
okay. Ooh, I can't spell tertiary right now, but we're gonna go ahead and go, we're just gonna go 3 institutions. Okay. And then I see I have something in the chat, bachelor, research. Yeah, for sure. So whatever keywords, whatever you're thinking of, that can definitely be helpful. And so again, this is really meant to help you kind of break away from just staring at this question that might be a little bit daunting to you, and help you kind of move forward in your research process. Are there any questions on this so far? No? Any questions in the chat? If you do have any questions in the chat, again, like feel free to let me know, right? And then we can kind of go through them as we see fit. But if there are no questions right now, I do encourage you to save this document, download it. Depending on what year you're in, you should either be still in your coursework or advancing towards working toward like ABD or completing your dissertation and or thesis. And so if you're there, this can still be a very helpful tool for you, or it can also help you in your classes. Okay. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and pass it on over to my colleague, Maya, and Maya will go ahead and continue and walk you guys through the database searching and looking at different databases. Okay.
Cool. All right. So let's go ahead and move on. I'm going to go ahead and close the tab that we've been working on here. See if I can get that out of the way. Okay. And we're going to move on to finding our databases, like Jenny was just saying. So let's go ahead and start by going to the library's website. And you can get to that either by Googling it or going to utep.edu/library, whatever's easier for you. And let me see if I can get that over here. Cool. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open up the library's website. And the easiest way to get to our databases is just on this screen. I have to scroll down a little bit. You may not need to on yours, but it's right here kind of in the middle of the screen under where it says library. You should see the tab that says databases. And so if you click on that, it should bring you to a list of our 540 databases. So that's a ton of databases to work through, right? I wouldn't expect anybody to be an expert on all of them. However, especially as graduate students, you're gonna want to start using these databases, because if you're still using MinerQuest, that's okay. That's a great place to start. It's very interdisciplinary, but as graduate students, this is going to be a better way for you to find material that's very specific to your field. So I'm going to go ahead and click on here where it says all subjects. And what's great is here you can really, you can refine which databases you're looking at based on the subject that you are studying in. So like, let's say, for example, does anyone want to offer either in the chat or here in person?
Yes, suppose dengue virus.
Say that one more time.
Dengue virus.
Dengue virus? Okay, but like which discipline? So are biological science? Okay, because I was going to say that could be under health, that could be under all kinds of different topics. So let's go ahead and start with biology. And I will say I am not a biology expert, but let's go ahead and walk through this. So one thing that's really cool is that our databases list has a list of best bets based on the subject. And these are handpicked by the subject specialist in that field. And you'll see the subject specialist listed right over here on the side where it says biology experts. So our biology expert is Robert Clapthor. He's super helpful and is a great person to go to. He's an excellent resource for help when it comes to research in your field. So like I was saying, it's great that we have these best bets kind of here at the top. It even tells you which ones are new. So if you've been looking through our databases before, it can be kind of nice to see what we've recently acquired or gotten access to. You can also see ones that are tagged as popular. Like Academic Search Complete is a great one that's very multidisciplinary as well. So a lot of different majors use Academic Search Complete. Is there a database that you already like or that you've used before?
Never.
Never? Okay. Have you predominantly used MinerQuest or just the library catalog?
I just went to the library and checked the library books that are available.
Okay, cool. So then this is, I'm glad you're here. So let's go ahead and do you have any suggestions? Maybe start with biological abstracts or?
So
Just click on virus or something. Virus.
So what we can do is we can try any one of the best bets here. And then I think also just a general one, and this is one thing that we can kind of like specify, is just going over Academic Search Complete, because Academic Search Complete is going to cover everyone and everything. So I think that'd be a great one to start with. Okay, for sure. And so you want to specifically search for stuff about viruses, but you even had a specific virus in mind, right? Okay, cool. So what was the name of the virus? Would you spell it for me? DE-NG-UE. Okay, awesome. So I see the virus here. And it looks like there's other words used for it as well. Like, would you say fever is related to it? I saw... or dengue fever, right? And I even see like versus glowing mosquitoes. Yeah, okay, cool.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and hit search. And so Academic Search Complete, like I said, is a great, very multidisciplinary starting place. It's still going to be a little bit more focused than Minor Quest, because Minor Quest is going to give you all kinds of different types of materials. Academic Search Complete still gives you quite a variety, but you're not going to get as much stuff like microfilm or microfiche. You're not going to get stuff like DVDs that happen to mention it or something like that, because you probably don't want something that like just mentions it in passing, right? You want something that's very focused on that specific topic. And so you can already see we have some good results here at the top. I'm not sure how narrow the scope of your research is yet, but here I'm seeing I already have 15,000 results. So that's a lot of results to get through, right? I mean, I don't know anybody that has the time to sit down and read 15,000 articles, right? So we probably want to narrow our focus a little bit, right? So there's some really easy low-hanging fruit to start doing that. And I'd say one good suggestion, especially when it comes to biology, is you probably don't want anything from 1942. Oh, thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. But yeah, so you probably don't want writing about it from 1942, right? So how recent would you say you need your research to be? Okay, so you want pretty recent, right? Unless you're like a history major, you probably don't want things that are that old, right? So I'm going to go ahead and update our search, and that's already reduced it by quite a bit, right? So now we're at around 7,000 results. Still quite a few,
And
right?
if I may, Maya, just really quickly, especially when it comes to health sciences and looking at sciences in general, and especially health medicine, things like that, you always want to try to stick within that 5-year range. That's something that we really, that's something that we really encourage, especially like our nursing students to do, is stick within that 5-year range. Because, and this is an example I give everyone, for example, the COVID virus that we know today didn't exist 5 years ago, right? There wasn't enough literature on it. So you always want to stick to that 5-year range. And like Maya mentioned, if you are looking at maybe like the history or like how things are changing over time, definitely go ahead and move into the older documents. But I think 5-10 years is a really good range right there.
Definitely. I think when it comes to different topics, like say maybe education, 10 years might still be okay, but even 20 years might be too long because a lot of variables may have changed in education to change what that research looks like, right? Oh, did you have a good?
Yeah, if I have, if I expand to 10 years and I have tons of materials to read, how am I going to manage all of that? Because even within the 5-year range, I already have like 7,000 articles to read, and that's not possible for me to do that.
That's too many, right?
Yeah.
So that's when I would recommend you start narrowing the scope of your research too. So sometimes there's only so much you can do to narrow in the on the searching database. Sometimes you need to narrow the scope of what you're looking at. So I know I remember from yours in the past, you had said that you were studying the success or the college readiness of African American students, right? You could narrow the scope of where they live. I remember you saying in El Paso. So that could probably narrow your search quite a bit. But if it narrows it too much, then you could open it up to maybe Texas, right? And so it's that constant like fine tuning and tweaking of your research to make sure that you're still getting enough results, but not getting too many, right?
And Maya, real quick, you have a hand raised with Victoria.
Okay, so go ahead, Victoria. Let us know. You can either tell us in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and go ahead and speak.
I've unmuted myself, and my question is on the current search that's here with dengue virus or dengue fever. Do we have to put the word dengue at the next line before the word fever? What if you just put the word fever?
You may, because I'm saying or. See, I'm using these Boolean operators, and maybe I skipped over that too quickly. But Boolean operators, especially with the way that I'm using them, I'm saying it doesn't have to be dengue virus and dengue fever. I'm saying dengue virus or dengue fever. And if I just had got rid of dengue at the beginning of fever, then I would get anything that mentions fever at all. And so
Even if you changed it to and instead of or?
if I changed it to and, then it would not. So
Okay.
you're correct there. Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. But yeah, we wouldn't want, like every type of fever.
Yeah, no, it will be huge details.
Exactly. That would be opening your search too much, right? So yeah, if you wanted to look at only dengue fever or at dengue virus when people have a fever, I mean, because not everybody who gets this virus necessarily has a fever, right? Does everybody who gets dengue virus get a fever always? Exactly. So you may not want, unless you're looking at that specific question and saying, okay, what does it look like when, or you're looking at only patients who have dengue virus and get a fever, then you may want to use that Boolean operator keyword combination. But so what's your full research question so that I can kind of get a little more narrow here?
Okay, so Aedes mosquito and dengue virus interaction.
Okay. Okay. So you're looking at mosquito and dengue virus interaction. Okay. So maybe here I'll say, instead of dengue fever versus glowing mosquitoes, I'll say all of these things and mosquitoes and see if that reduces my search at all. Oh, it did reduce it a little bit. I think it was almost 7,000 and now it's 4,000. So it's a little bit less. What are you trying to answer? Like what are you looking for in that interaction?
Okay, so Aedes mosquito salivary gland and the protein expression after dengue virus infection.
Okay.
There's a salivary gland in the mosquitoes. So when the virus is getting infected, the mosquitoes are getting infected with the virus, the glands, the composition of the glands are changed.
Okay.
I'm just trying to characterize what changes are there.
Okay, interesting. So could I say something like salivary glands? Salivary gland. And maybe I'll put an asterisk here because that asterisk will include anything that has the S afterwards. Do you see what I mean? So it's like, it can include nothing or it can include different variations of words after that. So like, for example, like if I wanted to get, this is obviously not your research, but if I was trying to get library or librarian, I could do that. And it would give me the option of, it would. Exactly. Does that make sense?
So that I can more narrow down.
This is called a wild card.
Mm-hmm.
Wild card. On the document that we had up, I believe there are tips on the different wildcards that you can use, different search tips. So you can feel free to kind of go through those because I believe that one's mentioned there as well.
I have a worry on this because by the time you're trying to narrow down the number of articles that you read, how am I sure that I'm not picking out very important articles by doing so?
That's a good point.
Read.
That's a great question. And so his question, folks, was by filtering his results continuously, will he potentially be kicking out helpful articles to his research and to his work? And I think like bottom line is you just have to continuously be aware that the information that you're looking for might be within a different time frame, right? It might be within a different search term, right? And so I think it really helps if you kind of think of this process as like, I know this sounds awful, but digging for gold, right? Like you just want to keep going until maybe it's that next rock over, that's the one that you absolutely need. And so think of it like leaving no stone unturned. I think that's a really good analogy for this. Like if you have the time, because again, it kind of all goes back to time, right? If you have the time, try looking at different date ranges, try different synonyms, try different terms, or you can just do simply like salivary gland, right? As opposed to just including that wildcard asterisk. And so you can kind of see different things, play around with the search. I think the best thing about being a librarian for me personally is that I get to just continuously research and help people research things, right? And so that means I learn new things from everyone else. And so if I can help you guys find this, and that is really important for your work, or if you're like, hey, I never considered that, thank you, that's an A+ for me, that's a win for me. And so just always be willing to kind of go that extra step in your research or ask for help.
And I find that like the bottom line here is that research is not linear. So we're not constantly like narrowing in on the perfect search. It's that you maybe have 5 perfect searches that all kind of reach different angles or different like subsets of information that end up being useful to your research. So you're not going to have the perfect search. I know we spend a lot of time trying to like perfect our searches, but it's a process, right? And like I said, it's not linear. And sometimes you get to the bottom of it and you're like, gosh, maybe I need to tweak my question a little bit. And that ends up making it easier for you to find more information, or helps give you a question that's more answerable with the information available, if that makes sense. So yeah, we've been working on kind of tweaking your research question a little bit here. Do you feel like these are kind of helpful tools already that you're seeing here, or is there another part of this that you'd like to see more narrowed down?
Yeah, but how can I make it more narrowed down? I want like 4,163 liters there.
That's still quite a bit, right? And so here I can start limiting too with more filters. So I could say, I only want stuff that's peer reviewed. That narrows it down a little bit more. There's academic journals. There's even one thing you could do is, so right now it says we're searching academic search complete. I could select here and go to databases. And what's cool is we have, this may be a little daunting to look at, but there's all kinds of like different databases that you could specifically ask it to search, because EBSCO, academic search complete is kind of a big umbrella. You could get a little bit more specific. And what's cool is you can click on these and they'll tell you a little bit about them. So obviously you don't want stuff from index to printed music, right? Because that's not going to tell you about mosquitoes and their salivary glands, right? So yeah, this can be a good place to kind of start narrowing even more, is to only look at specific databases within academic search complete. So like, for example, are you looking more at the patients of dengue virus or at the mosquitoes themselves?
Mosquito themselves.
Okay. So that kind of narrows out. We don't want to be using like Medline or something like that, because that's more like medical and health sciences. But let me see.
Journals or they are just something like narrowing down points, like the boxes that you have to check.
So these are not journals themselves. These are databases. Yes. And so academic search complete is like it's a big umbrella of a ton of databases, and then you can reduce from there. Does that kind of make sense? So, and I think that this is a great way to look at academic search complete for everybody, because like I said, it's such a broad scope in academic search complete. So like, let's say I just wanted to look at biological abstracts, right? And I'm sure we could also look at some of our maybe zoological record. I wonder if that one's part of this as well. Let me see. No, it's not, but I'm just trying to see if there's other databases that are listed here on our best bets that I could add to it. But like, let's just try with biological abstracts. And wait, show all. Okay. Hit search. Oh my goodness. Did it make it even worse? Here, hold on.
Oh yeah.
The time changed, and I still had academic search complete selected. Okay, so search that, and then let's get our time back to 2017. Exactly. So let's see what that does. Oh my gosh, it's still more.
So try full text and peer reviewed as well.
Full text and peer reviewed. Is it under source types or just here?
You can do limit to, and then you can do.
All right, let's see. So, oh wow, disease affiliation, sequence type, amino acid. Okay, so let's say linked full text. And we said peer reviewed as well, right? Okay, where is.
Limit your results right at the top.
Oh, there it is. Awesome. And then we'll scroll down and hit search.
So really quickly, folks, the thing about Academic Search Complete, and you kind of saw this when we were going through her question right now, it gave us all of this disease type and disease family. Every single database that you choose under Academic Search Complete can have their own individual filters. So if you're searching more than one database, so if you're searching, for example, biological abstracts and maybe like zoological abstracts, right? If you're searching those two, you can set different filters and different parameters for each one individually.
And what's cool is that some of these parameters and filters will be based specifically on the content that you're looking at, like on that topic, right? Because like you won't be sorting by diseases when you're looking at history necessarily, right? Or when you're looking at rhetorical devices in English, right? So it's kind of it's very fine-tuned and specific to your discipline when you get granular like that. And so it did refine the results a little bit more. So you're looking at 2000 instead of 4, and you keep going like this, like where you keep, and you can even start saying things like, I want to make sure, can you nest your ors and ands here? Like, can I say, or, I'm a fan of nesting my lines just because I find it easier to look at. So I'm gonna go ahead and oops, of course. But I had dengue virus or dengue fever and mosquitoes and salivary glands. So let's see. Okay, so now it says no results were found.
Ooh,
so now we're on that opposite side of the spectrum, right?
Can I play around and help?
Sure, yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and run a similar search to this, and then this might also be able to kind of help you guys too. So I'm gonna go ahead and take out and then salivary glands. So we have dengue virus or dengue fever. We have mosquitoes. And then right here in my next one, I'm going to add, I believe I have saliva. Right? So just simple. And again, thinking about your synonyms and your keywords, if she's talking about the salivary, thank you, can't say that word, salivary gland. Another word is saliva, right? And kind of thinking about it more simply broadly. I can go ahead and click search. And let's see, I have 34 results, right? And so that went from being, I think at one point we had 7,000, right? 7,000 to 37. And, you know, in being honest, you want to have more or less about 100 results. That's like the ideal number. I think 100 is a perfect number because you have enough to go through and to really not limit yourself. Okay, so I can continue to add my peer reviewed, I can add my dates, and I can also search specifically on academic journals here. I see that a lot of these are periodicals, and so if I find that, you know what, all I want is an academic journal, I can go ahead and click on that. And then I can see if it's filtered or if it changes a little bit more. Okay, but there you go. That's just kind of like showing you those different key concepts and those different types of searching. Okay. I hope that helped.
Yeah, that was super helpful. And I think that comes back to like the bottom line that we're talking about here, where it's that, you know, research isn't linear. And a lot of times, like throwing your ideas at another person, even when they are not of that discipline, can sometimes be helpful. Especially, I mean, coming in and talking to librarians, even if we don't happen to be the subject specialist for your topic, we probably know so we probably have some tricks up our sleeves to help like reduce your search or expand your search based on where you are in your research
I
process.
have a question. When you search for research papers like literature, so it's the only UTEP library or UTEP database that we get always. I mean, when we search for in literature or something.
Do you mean when you search off of the main website here?
No, suppose PubMed. PubMed is a search engine.
Mm-hmm.
So when we search for papers on PubMed, is it only possible to get it in UTEP? If I go home, I will not get those papers, right?
Oh, okay, good question. Okay, so I just want to repeat it so for the folks online. But yeah, so one of our participants here in person is asking if they are able to access our databases from home. And the answer is yes. You can access your data.
Global project that connects with the laptop with the UTEP database, right?
Well, so it's your account. So if you're signed in, and I would be careful of like, so like say you're looking for PubMed and you just Google it and you go like this, you may not be prompted to log in that way. So I would always start from our databases here, because if you click on it here and you look at like our little link here, it says utep.idm.oclc.org/ and then it has the database's homepage. So you're basically accessing it through us. And using these links here on our website helps the database know where you're coming from. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you just Google PubMed, it may not work for you. But if you go through our website, then it will know that you're coming from UTEP, and it'll prompt you to log in using your credentials.
So how can I log into PubMed to this database? To click P.
Yeah. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit all subjects and then click on P. And I should be able to, you could do like a quick little Control F and say pub. And well, I'm going to have a lot of things that say that. But so yeah, PubMed is just here on the bottom and you can click on it from there. Yeah, no problem.
Hey Maya, real quick, I know we're almost out of time, but we also have a question about RefWorks.
Oh, awesome.
Could we just do like a simple export to RefWorks on EBSCO?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on the top article here. And does anybody else here in the room know what RefWorks is? Have you heard of RefWorks? No? Okay, awesome. So RefWorks is the service that the university pays for using the fines and fees that you have paid for in your tuition. So definitely use it. I'm going to go ahead and click on this export button here. And here it gives me the option to export to RefWorks. This is going to look a little easier on my end. If you don't have a RefWorks account yet, it will prompt you to log in and ask you to set up an account. But I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And yes, I want to export to the newest version of RefWorks. And then it will bring you to RefWorks and it'll help you export your citations. And so I think we talked about this a little bit in our last session. But what's cool is then you can set up folders, and these folders you can make, like, say you have like your thesis folder. You can even make, can you make folders in your folders?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think it's that meta.
It's not that fancy, but you can kind of group all your different citations based on subject or whatever course you're taking, and then just go ahead and hit import. And what's cool about that is then it gives you access. You can find that article again through RefWorks, and then you can create a bibliography super easily. And so here you'll see it. And you can click on this button that says find this item at UTEP library. But like I was saying, if I go to folders and I click on practice, there's a ton of different citations that Jenny has already exported on this computer. But I can click here and click on create bibliography and click on that and then tell it what style you want. So like, let's say, I know a lot of folks use APA 7th edition. And if my internet is cooperating enough. Okay, I'm sorry, my internet is being a little interesting today. But basically, once you tell it what style you want, you can click copy to keyboard and then dump it at the end of your paper.
And then if I may really quickly, Maya, just to kind of show you guys too, for those of you that maybe don't have an account just yet, I'm going to log out really fast just so you can kind of see what it looks like. So whenever you hit export, right, so that same way that Maya did right now, just export it and then directly into RefWorks, it's going to ask you to log in. If you don't already have an account like I did, it just automatically logged me in without a problem. This is what you're going to see. Right? Because you don't have an account yet, you're going to have to set one up. You can go ahead and do create an account, and you just use your institutional email. So you have to use your UTEP email. Otherwise, it's not going to give you a free account. Okay. So once you have that, you should be good to go. And then again, like Ray mentioned, the internet strikes again, and that's pretty much what it is. So yeah.
But yeah, so that's a very quick rundown on what RefWorks can do for you. We are talking about possibly hosting another workshop on RefWorks, just because we've been getting so many questions about it. And that's great because it's a resource you're already paying for.
Yeah.
It's kind of like having a gym membership and not using it. So you might as well get to use it. Oh, and of course now it's working. So here's my list of references that I was trying to export a second ago, and I was able to pick APA 7th edition. And here it even says, you know, there's 6,606 styles. So here I could say, you know, Chicago for my history folks out there. And then you can copy to clipboard that way too. So yeah. And then you just, like I said, dump it at the end of your paper or thesis or dissertation. But yeah.
I need to understand this a bit more. If you're using RefWorks, so that means all the materials that you have read, you have to read them through RefWorks?
You don't have to. It's just a place where you can organize them and save them. And it's cool because you can use it on MinerQuest as well. So like, let's just say I looked up dengue virus here, and I think we kind of showed you this in our last session. But I'll pull it up really quick just so that we can see it. So there's this little export to RefWorks button here too. But yeah, you don't have to do this necessarily. It's just a tool for you. And
yeah, I am interested in how it quickly organizes your bibliography that you don't have to spend too much time arranging them. So if you can do that for you, I want to understand the processes that you have to go through for folks to do that for you.
Yeah, so for it to do that for you, all you have to do is hit that export button on everything you want it to do. You could add them manually if you really wanted to. Like say you didn't find it in RefWorks, or maybe you didn't find the book on MinerQuest, maybe you found it at the bookstore, or you found it on Google or somewhere else. A lot of places will have an export to RefWorks option, but if they don't, you can still add things manually. But yeah, if you want it to create the bibliography for you, you will have to tell it all the things you want it to add to your bibliography. Does that kind of answer your question, or?
Yeah, it does, but I need to put my hands on it.
Yeah, I'm definitely a learn by doing type of person. And so if people tell me, I go, and then I have to do it and figure it out myself.
Folks, it is 1 o'clock, and then we understand that everyone's time is valuable, especially you guys as grad students. And so we don't want to keep you any longer than we have to. So we really thank you for coming. If you have any questions, we're not kicking you out. Don't think that at all. But if you do have any questions, like, please feel free to stick around and we can go ahead and answer them. But if you do have to go, thank you for coming, and we hope to see you again soon.